You need to set up your filters in the right way. You almost need to protect yourself from the noise. Remove every excess information. Remove everything and just live with the bare minimum. London is a big city, but at the same time, finding yourself in London, you need to build your own parameters, your own environment somehow in order to function properly. I have a very obsessive nature. When I'm passionate about something, I do it in extreme levels. My design practice is obsessive. The discipline behind it is obsessive. Even things that I enjoy personally in my life, I get obsessive about it. Inspiration can come from different ways. You have this vision of something and you want to realize it and you want to execute it. Other times it's much more subtle. It's a feeling that you have that you need to somehow cultivate. It's a very slow process. It's a filtration process. When it comes to being part of a team, the challenge is always how to finding the right moment to communicate. And then you just need to plant a seed and leave the seed there. I wanted to be able to walk everywhere, but at the same time I live right bang in the middle of the city. It's full of noise, it's full of distraction, it's full of people. And I wanted to make this almost like a sanctuary, like a refuge. You know, it's almost like building a castle in the middle of the city. Working with Piero has been incredible because it's a constant injection of energy and the excitement is there and is shared. And usually this is incredibly rare with a big company. Working with Floss has managed to offer me is even more freedom. Now that I see it again from distancing myself, I realize that my life is about balance. I could have gone back to Cyprus where I'm originally from, but I would have been a big fish in a small pond. I wanted to be a small fish in a big pond. To other objects, into furniture, what differentiates light from other design is the fact that it is a medium. It's a product that has to function in two different scenarios. I mean, first, most of the times, like 80% of the times when you see a light, it's off. So it has to work in terms of its sculptural qualities, in terms of its function, of course. But at times, 20% of the times also the light is on. So it has to have these two very distinct lives. And when the light is on, something completely different happens. You know, the perception of the object becomes completely different. Even the physicality of the object becomes different because suddenly the space that it occupies is very different. When you're dealing with furniture, you have to find other qualities, but they're definitely not the same. Light for me is very special medium, very poetic. I think naturally, through instinct, we're attracted to light. Light first, as it appeared, the idea of fire, to be drawn to something, the idea of the attraction to natural light, to the sun, to the moon. So when you deal with artificial light, is, of course, in a different setting. You know, you're trying to function or to continue to function at a time when light is no longer around, when natural light is no longer around. So that substitution as a gesture has to be very, very different. You know, what is important to realize as a lighting designer is that we're not trying to replicate the day. We're not trying to copy the day into the night. So the important thing is to embrace darkness and appreciate and introduce light in a very different manner. The significance of design, I think, is honesty, in my opinion. And honesty in the terms of the designer being true to themselves. I think it's important to try to contribute in the design of an object, or generally in the creative act, in bringing something that is more you. I feel very honored for the third time to be awarded by EDITA. It's an international award of an incredible standard. It's important to be acknowledged for your services as a designer, and that makes you want to keep on doing what you're doing. But also, more than anything, is to have a constructive communication in order to read. I say I'm a designer. I guess it's almost like being christened. They give you a name, you don't have a choice. I have my own production, my own brand under my own name. And that's what sometimes is difficult for people to understand. Is it Michael Anastassiades, the brand? Is it Michael Anastassiades, the design studio? We design, develop, produce, and sell. I like materials that are real, meaning honest, I think. My choice of material is mainly in terms of the timeless qualities that I would like to capture in a product. I like to refer to my designs as being reductive. I like to take away from objects when I design the excess. I like to work in the place that I live just purely because there is an immediacy that exists, and also with the relationship with your own work. I mean, my work is my life. My life is my work. They're so directly linked. It makes total sense to have them together. My most important design tool, I guess, is my dream. I don't think it matters. Of course, a sketchbook and a pen is always a tool for being able to put some ideas there. But I find that the most productive way for me to come up with ideas is when I sit somewhere and just simply daydream. Different, and they're quite unique in their own way. When I think of the icy lights, I think of balance. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. And how I got inspired originally by that is when I came across this video on YouTube by this American juggler, contact juggler, that was spinning this crystal sphere on his hands and up his arms, and while he was balancing this sphere on the edge of his fingers. And for me, that sphere took moments perfectly still, and then it's just capturing that exact moment where the sphere is about to fall, but there's an incredible sense of marking the space where the party is going to take place. And I wanted to translate that into your space, to the environment. And then finally, I guess the fact of something very practical. You want, when you move in a house, you always get the electricity points, which is a place where you least want them. So this whole idea about moving them to a more desirable location in a very poetic way. So this is something that captures the collection.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And then the other room, was The first stone was a round stone, no?
It had always been a round sphere.
Right.
I mean, even as a teenager, I remember sort of always looking down, whenever I would walk in the fields or on the beach, and I would always look for the perfectly round stone. And what I could see sometimes, which would excite me hugely, was this kind of form that looked so promising, and then when I would pick it up, the disappointment of actually not having the same shape reflected on the other side. But sometimes it was absolutely perfect or near perfect, so it had passed the test to be part of my collections.
But now you no longer only collect round stones?
No, I think the collection extended over the years to different things, but it was always about questioning the role of nature as the designer. I mean, one collection of stones that I have is this volcanic pebbles that I collected from a beach in Mani in the Peloponnese. The idea of designing something that makes sense comes from my practical background. I guess perhaps it's my engineering training. I have to understand something before I actually start designing it. I think lighting is a very special skill. Light has to work in various scenarios. When a light is on, then suddenly something different, something completely different happens. There is the space suddenly changes. So it's not anymore the physical space that the form of the light occupies, but it's also the glow of the light. I don't believe that anything is new in design. I don't believe that there's anything that is new in the world of art or in any other creative practice. What you tend to see is a new interpretation of something that has already happened. In 10 years' time, I'd like to see myself having as much fun and being as thirsty as I am at this moment that I'm here. I don't really have long-term ambitions to change the world. What I'm interested is to be able to still be in a position to explore things with the same level of freedom that I currently have. And for me, that's the most rewarding things. I didn't know that I wanted to be a designer as such, and I don't think I actually figured that out until probably I was well into my civil engineering studies. That's when I discovered the Royal College of Art, and that's when I said, okay, this fits my requirements, it's something creative. I think there is a link in the sense that it gives you a very practical way of thinking, of approaching things, but I think that comes more naturally within me. I need a reason to design something. I think for me, if there is no reason, then I don't feel the need to do it. The reason why I don't prefer to use the word minimal, I mean, I think it's quite a word that has been misunderstood by the public and especially by design journalists and critics. So it was an easy way of labeling something. I tend to prefer the reductive process and sort of more like a distillation process when it comes to the way that I approach my design and my work, in the sense that you subtract, you start taking away the excess. The string lights is an interesting family of lights. It's an interesting and very poetic way of actually solving a very simple and practical problem. You move into a house, you want to always put a light at the place when there's no power. And they all have these sediments trapped between, these volcanic rock, but through the wear, these thin layers of white sediment have become just really extremely finely and beautifully painted lines onto these stones, and some of them are just cut the stone in half, and some of them are just the circle. So depending on how they wear over the years, or how they wore over the years, then they acquire these different sort of gestures of these fine white lines. So there's one configuration on the plinth of following the line somehow.
Groups, yeah. There was this perfect stone given to you by Neoptolemus, wasn't there?
Yeah, that was an interesting story, because in one of the field trips that I went with him looking for something else, looking for fossils, he said to me, "I'll take you one day to help you find fossils and how you identify rocks that you can split in half and find a fossil." But it was so uneventful, and it was so disappointing because we didn't actually find anything. And at the end of the day, as we were walking back to the car, suddenly he kind of bent and picked up a pebble from the field near the car, and it was a perfectly round sphere. And he offered it to me, and he said to me, "Here you go, you can't beat nature."
Is that the roundest stone in your collection?
I made a piece many years later. In 2014, I had an exhibition in Cyprus, and I decided to actually 3D scan that stone and scale it up and carve it again in stone. The outcome was a stone this size, and this is what I figured out, that actually it's not perfectly round. And it was a gesture, I think, from me, not to prove anything, but as really understanding that at the end of the day, there is a beauty behind this. You know, the idea that you can't control nature, you can't expect that level of perfection. Cables in the landscape divide the landscape. Is when these cables join pylons, when you see them, especially when you sit on the train and you move in high speed, you look at this repeated image of perfectly disciplined, perfectly equidistant strings of power that move from one pylon to the other. And that was quite an inspiring image for me to work with. The other collection, the IC lights, are more about balance. I was interested in capturing the moment when a sphere seems to be perfectly still. I think it's quite clear in the way that every single fixture has its own way of addressing that particular moment and framing that moment. From a design perspective, I feel that London has always been a center, has always been a creative hub, I guess. Anything else?